and I'll kill you quickly. You know what I'm after. Everything else is yours for the taking.
We hit him hard, so you don't have much time. By the gods, I've got to get out of this business.
What? No. No! It's mine! I had it in my hands!
Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope you're all doing great. We're here to talk about Return to Krondor, which is like a somewhat sequel to... What's the second book in that Rift War series called? Anyway, so there's Magician. Well, there's like Apprentice / Magician, because I guess there were 2 books at one point, but then the author like combined them into one. And then there is the second book, which is like High Castle or something. And then I thought it was going to be Betrayal at Krondor, because Betrayal at Krondor came out first, like in real life. But no, so what confused me was that, so you have James in the second book, who's like one of the main, or the second game, in Betrayal at Krondor, which he's like one of the main characters, Senor James. So he's a senor, so he's like a knight, right? And then we play Betrayal at or Return to Krondor, which is the second game that was made in the Krondor series, because there's only these 2 made. And it stars James, the page, and a page is a lower rank than senor. So obviously, this game takes place before that game, but they're also like not connected at all. Like James is there, and it takes place like in and around Krondor. But I think that was like the only connections that there are at all. So again, it was like, what? No, and also Pug. So Pug, in between each chapter, Pug does like a recap. And then I guess Pug's son, William, who will probably be introduced, who I probably already talked about, because again, I'm playing these games like before I'm reading the books, and the books 2 of the books take place before these games. God, I know. It's a hot mess over here, this series. Those books are like fucking long. So I'm just continuing to play through the games in my roster while I'm also doing that. Anyway, so this is yeah, there you go. It's kind of a mess. Anyway, so this game is, besides Page, or not Page, it's Page, then it's Squire. So besides like Squire James and learning more about like Jimmy the Hand when he was like a thief, like a tiny little bit, and then the next game, the Betrayal at Krondor, the first game / the next game chronologically, being like the same guy, and so there's like no connection. And then it taking place in Krondor, there is like virtually no connection between these 2 games. And probably not much of the books either, but we'll see. We'll know more about that when I talk about the books. I'll reference it. So if you listen to this in order, I've already spoken about this. Okay, so this game starts off with a cinematic. There's some pirates attacking some other ship, and then they came to get like something, but then the ship starts to sink, and they don't get it because it sinks into the ocean, and then there's this big angry looking dude, and he's like, "Rawr." We then start with the prelude chapter, which we have Pug, and he's writing about the Mortaril, how they've been disbanded. So like clearly it takes place after the previous books. And at first I was like, because I played Betrayal at Krondor, I'm like, oh, did this take place after the previous game? And then it's like, well, besides that one, it's like the whole thing's kind of confusing. Anyway, so the previous sorcerer of the Prince of Krondor is like retiring, and so Pug's sending Jezria, who is a Keshian girl, and we don't learn anything about the Keshians in Betrayal at Krondor, but from the books, Keshians we learn, and we don't learn too much in this game either, but we know from the books, like the Keshians are like an old empire that is kind of like Persian / Indian, and that they had like ruled over this whole area, but then like when the Kingdom of the Isles, which is where Krondor lies, because that's in the Kingdom of the Isles. There's like the king, and then there's the Prince of Krondor, and they're like the number 1 and number 2 leaders of like the humans in this part of the world. That they kind of like got pushed out, and so there's some like ill will between the Kingdom of the Isles, or just the kingdom as it's referred, and the Keshians. But then at this juncture, it seems like there's some like peace somewhat. There is some like fighting in the game with some Keshian guys, but it's like very minimal, and if I remember correctly, it's like a complete side quest anyway. So we take over as Squire James, who's like the main character of this, and he gets to like kind of meander Krondor at night for a while, but at some point he's supposed to go meet up with Jezreel and bring her back to the palace. So we meander for a while, we head over to the north gate, we get accosted by some assholes, and then we like find a prostitute, and so we go have sex with her, but then we get robbed, and then we meet this like disfigured guy named like the Whisperer or whatever, and he was supposed to get married, but now he wants his fiance to think that he's dead because he's all disfigured and whatnot. So he gives us an amulet, and he's like, hey, if you ever run into her, she's like up north, then you can give her this amulet and let her know that I'm dead or something, or that I can't see her because I'm disfigured. And so we're like, yeah, sure, sounds good. So then he gives us a knife, which we use to kill a guy over by the prostitute, like her pimp or whatever, so that we can get our stuff back. All right, cool. So we trace back to the north gate, but instead of going and fighting some goons, we go over and fight Jezreel, and she's a hot babe, nice accent, everything. Oh, this game is like fully voice acted, which is good, but also bad, because sometimes I would be like distracted while people were talking, and I'd kind of miss what they were talking about. And I'd rather just have like both, where I can read and listen, or preferably just to read in most of these times with these games. Yeah. Anyway, so at this point, it's time to like ransack the town and level up, which we do a fucking lot of. At some point, we find this side quest where like we're heading back over to the palace, and this urchin comes over and picks our pockets. So we chase her down and catch her, and then we talk to her about how she's taking some order. She needs to like do something or whatever, and she's like freaking out, and we're like, holy shit, like what's going on, kid? And then we find out that there's this guy being a member of some order that takes care of orphans, and then he's like imprisoning children, and then he beats them until they like work in his sweatshop, and then he beats them some more. And at that point, we're like, we're gonna help you out. And then the urchin girl like is like, what's that over there? And we turn, and then she runs off, leaving us to find the sweatshop all on our little lonesome. So we head over to the poor district, because that's probably where this guy's working out of. And he is. And then we find this asshole, we find an asshole guarding Yusuf is the name of the sweatshop guy. So we kill him, we bust into the place, we kill some more people, including Yusuf and a guard. We find a manuscript that Jezreel reads. Apparently, they're Kirshan like agitators or something. And they're somehow related to like her uncle, and they want to agitate the prince. And then they mentioned some guy named like the Crawler, who I remember the Crawler he was like involved in betrayal at Krondor too, but we don't really deal with him here. Anyway, we rescue the kids, and then we meet up with the guard outside, where we hand over the kids and the documents so that he can take care of that. At this point, we spend some more time grinding it out. We want to get some equipment. As usual, with a lot of these games, I have like a guide I'm just kind of like looking at, and it's like, hey, this prologue area is like a prime time to just like meander about, bust into people's homes and kill dudes and get like a bunch of like random equipment, because apparently equipment drop in this game is like very random, in that you can find some like top tier gear here. Like I found a sword I used for Jimmy the Hand like the whole rest of the fucking game, and I found some armor that I gave to William when he shows up later to join the party for like the entire game as well. So it's like, it behooves you to like spend some time here just like killing books and opening like treasure chests and leveling up and like just like doing whatever. Jazara, so the spell casting in this game is kind of wonky. It's like the more you invest, so every time you gain a level you get 100 experience. For the first like 50 levels of points, you can have up to 100 in every skill, right? So for the first 50, I think it costs 1 point of experience, and then you get experience points and you get like 100 skill points, so it costs 1 skill point. From like 50 to like 80, it costs 2, and then from like 80 to 100, it costs 3 skill points. Anyway, so you really want to be like concise about what you invest your stuff in. So Jimmy just has like one-handed sword fighting, essentially, defense, initiative, and then like some skills in lock picking, which I used a lot, and then I never used again, like after the prologue. I think I jimmied like a couple more locks in like the second or third chapters, but then after that, it was like, fuck it, whatever. Jazara, I just gave her all like lightning magic. Oh, so with the magic, the more points you put into it, the more you just like naturally learn spells. You can also get spells from like scrolls and stuff. And then the spell casting in this game is powerful, but also awful, because at some point Jimmy's he can like hit a guy for like 4 times. He can hit like 4 or 5 times like on his turn when you get him like really juiced up. And same thing with the other melee fighters that you have. And then the mage caster Jazara, she can like. You give her a staff and you can like get up her like 2-handed fighting and just have her like pummel things with the staff, or you can cast spells. And if you cast spells, there's 2 ways to do it for wizards. You get like one cleric later, essentially Dungeons & Dragons style cleric, where he can hit things with like a big hammer, or you can cast like healing spells. You can't ever cast. I have two qualms with the spell casting in this game. One, if you have anything in your hands, you cannot cast spells. So you can either have a staff or you can cast spells. You can't have both essentially. And it's like, well, can't you unequip the staff? You can, but it costs your turn. And then so with spell casting for the wizards for Jazara, this is like what makes her really like bad, is that you can quick cast, which casts immediately, or you can slow cast. And slow casting waits till like her next turn. And more often than not, unless there was like 6 guys that I was fighting, Jimmy and later Solus, who joins up, would have killed like everybody by the time she got like a spell off. And then sometimes that slow cast also automatically fails. It just there's no, and like I pumped all there's no like magic casting skill. There's just like the different categories. So there's like lightning magic, fire magic, heart magic. It's mind magic, and then like change magic, which is like I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, and you don't have that many spell points, so it's really like these are just like weaker fighters that sometimes can cast spells. If you like invest like a lot of money into it, which I was like, yeah. Now there's a cheat in this game. You can go in. You got to go into like an ini file in the thing, and then you can turn the console on, and then you can open the console in the game by holding like Alt C, and then you can type Pyromania, and that lets you like cast spells without using magic points, which actually makes like the spell casting in this game like somewhat useful. But still, it's like I call it a cheat, quote unquote, because yes, it does give you unlimited magic and it lets you cast any spell in the game. But like you can level up. Like the only spell I really used was Chain Lightning, and I could have got Chain Lightning almost immediately. So that's not really a cheat. It's like slightly makes the game a little bit faster. And then like your spells fail so much that having like unlimited spell casting is almost like who gives a fuck. It's useful later on when you get Solus for like healing, but also you can use alchemy to create potions. So you can have virtually unlimited potions as well. So it's like it's not even like using the cheat. I almost feel like doesn't even like speed the game up that much. Like I used it, but it was like the spells fail like all the time, and it was just like at some point I was like, whatever, right? But it's there if you really want. And again, it's just because the battles go by so quick. And again, if like you level up, like without cheating, right? You can just like wander around and kill thugs in the beginning of the game. And Jimmy went from like level 1 to like level 5 or 6. And so that's like 600 skill points. So he was like maxed out on initiative, defense, and attack. And that's all you need for the rest of the game. All those extra points, I was just putting in like random bullshit. Because I was like, eh. And like I said, I found the sword I just found a random sword and random armor that was like magical, indestructible, made him immune to fire. And his attack was like multiple attack, like 5 attacks before I even left the prologue. And it's not like I cheated to get those. I just like randomly found them in like treasure chests. So it's just like, okay. So even though I love cheating and I justify it constantly because it makes games more enjoyable, in this it's almost like, just play through the game. I think they have a trainer or something, but again, you level up so fast and you become virtually indestructible. Like you die sometimes, but then you just like restart the battle all over again. So it was kind of like, and the lightning attacks, like I said, I think the most I ever used a lightning attack was like twice in a battle, and it costs, I don't know, that's easily done with just like the normal magic pool that you have, and then you can just use potions to get your magic back. So the game's like exceedingly easy is what I'm trying to get across here. Okay, anyway, but what, especially after the grind. So grind a little bit. At some point we talked a little bit about the racismus towards Keshians from the kingdom and whatnot. James makes a pass at Jazara, gets completely denied, which is pretty funny. And that's at the end of the prologue. So then chapter 1 finally begins. So James introduces Jezreel to Arutha, who's the Prince of Krondor. And then he wants James to introduce her to his people. And so she was asked to see William because William is Pug's son, and she was like a disciple of Pug. And he was like, oh yeah, he's usually over at this bar on the other side of town, like the Rat's Nest bar or whatever. with his girlfriend Talia, who he wants to marry because he's like a member of like the House Guard or whatever. And it's like cool. So we go to meet with him, and then there's like a huge fight, and then we head in there, and the whole thing's on fire. And so we rush over to Talia, and she's dying because her wounds are too severe to heal for Jazara, who's a wizard, not a healer anyway. And then we find out that there's like a huge bear of a man that did it to her, and it's the guy from the opening cinematic, obviously. So she curses the brigands, and then in the name of Cthulhu, which is important because that comes up like at the very end of the game. And then William swears to go get revenge. So James stops him, and then William explains that him and Martin were coming after work. Hey, Martin! That name shows up so much. I don't know if it's supposed to be the same Martin from the future, the Duke Martin, who's like the brother of the prince or the nephew, cousin of the prince or whatever, or from a magician, but maybe. Anyway, they saw a commotion, and then so we head over to the jail. Let's see. Oh, no. So then we talk about Martin a little bit, and then we get a cutscene of an explosion. And then William's like, oh, the prison's been blown up. So we head over there, and then they were led by a giant of a man with a bone amulet, so the bear guy that Talia cursed. So we have to rush down this corridor to kill some archers and whatnot. We clear the first floor of the prison, go to the second, and then we kill some more guys, and then we find the scribe who's been like tied up. So we untie him. He talks about how he almost died. And then someone was like, let's get out of here. And so they just tied him up and left. I guess they had more time. Instead of just stabbing him, they like, whatever. And that he recognized that one of the brigands works for this guy called Michael, who's a pirate. Sullen Michael. So we head down to the basement of the prison. We find this like crazy guy, and we ask him what happened. He mentions Newt, and that Newt knew about a treasure, and that the guy tells us that he heard a sound, and then a big guy named Bear came down. Bear ripped open the prison door, talked to Newt, and then asked Newt where it was. Newt's like, I don't know, I didn't do anything. And then Bear like cut him to pieces. So his pieces are all over the floor here. And then he stopped cutting him up when he heard fighting upstairs, and he left. So we go to report this to the captain, and we talk about Sullen Michael, and we find out he eats at Ye Bitten Dog Tavern. And then we hear that someone escaped out the back, so we give chase, and we see Bear for a second. So we then head over the north gate. The mercenaries got pushed back away from the gate, and the guard tells us about this bear guy again, and that there's also fire damage in this area, and that, oh no, the orphanage is on fire. They lit the fucking orphanage on fire. Jezreel casts a spell on James so he can rush in, and we go in and rescue all the orphans, and everyone's super happy and whatnot. And then again, the Ye Bitten Dog gets brought up again as a place we should probably go check out. So we head over there, and then we get ambushed by some of Bear's like mercenaries outside the tavern. Kill them. We head inside. There's some Nighthawks there. Yep, those assholes. And I don't know if we've run into those assholes yet. They play a big role in the next game. Anyway, so we speak to Sullen Michael. He denies being involved at all. So we give him some money, and he tells us the scribe is actually the bad guy. So we need to go back and confront him. So we go out there. We call out the scribe for being on the take with Bear and everything. And William comes on like real fucking strong. So this guy like eventually just folds. And he tells us that he was paid by Bear for information on the prison, but he wasn't actually involved in anything. And oh yeah, also he got paid a lot to lower sentences and stuff. And so you can kill him at this point or spare him. I decided to spare him because fucking. And then on the desk near him, we see a note about Newt and how he had a room at Ye Bitten Dog. All right, so back we go. So we talked some more about Newt and about Bear. Then we waste a lot of money like paying him to get like information that we already knew about. Oh well. So next we talk to the innkeeper. He is a total asshole. We pay him a whole bunch of money to get a key to Newt's room up on the second floor. So we head up there and we find some more goons, kill them, and then we get a key to the sewer in there. And this is apparently where the treasure that Bear was looking for is. And then we talk about Lucas. Lucas is the father of Talia, I think, is what I gathered. And so they know him. He's also the guy who runs the inn that we were at, like the Peacock or whatever. It's like the Rainbow Parrot or something. And so we head over there, which ends chapter 1. Pug does a little overview of what literally just happened, and also states that James sent a letter to the prince about the sewer and about treasure and everything that's been going on before we actually head over there in pursuit. So into the sewers we go at the beginning of chapter 2. So we see a monster running around. All right, cool. So we run around. This place is pretty big, and it's kind of like a super maze. We find some dead guy. We find some mockers who are like the Thieves Guild, and they recognize Jimmy the Hand, who's now a squire in this, but he used to be one of them, right? So they're like, "Oh, cool. What's up, brother?" And this is the point where I'm like, okay, this is fucking Jimmy the Hand. This is definitely a prequel to Betrayal of Krondor. Like somehow I messed up the chronology. Like Betrayal of Krondor definitely happens after this. So then we find like the circular spillway area, and there's a bunch of Keshian assassins. And so once we kill all of them, we find an order from like the Keshians for like James and Jazara's death, which is kind of scary, and that doesn't really go anywhere in the story, so I don't know why it's brought up here. This game is really not that well written. Anyway, one of the patches spillway leads out to this golden brick road. What is that from Wizard of Oz or whatever? So I take it leads to a broken gate, which is likely the escape route that Bear and them used. And so then we search around some more. We run into some more mockers, and they talk, or another mocker, and he talks about how we got to kill like the sewer monsters, and once we kill the sewer monsters and their babies, then he'll let us go talk to Lucas, who's the guy we're looking for, who has the information, whose daughter is the lady who died, who is William's like girlfriend or whatever, or was. So we track them down, we kill them, and then Jazar is like, oh hey, one of them used to be a girl. In fact, here's some eggs, here's some foul sorcery, so destroy the eggs. Bye bye babies. Anyway, so then we finally head all the way back to Lucas. He talks about how he's working with some pirates, they had a treasure. He talks about Bear and how Bear's like a lunatic, he's got this amulet that makes him like invincible or whatnot. And then we like, Lucas is like, someday I'll ask a favor of you and it'll be unknown. And we're like, okie dokie, sounds good. As long as it's not illegal, James agrees. Okay, cool. So further on, oh no, that's the mocker. And then, so we find Lucas later on just chilling on a sleeping mat. He thanks us for coming to help. And then some assholes roll up, so we kill them. And then Lucas tells us that Bear has been after him all night and that he's all tired about it. And that he was going to fence some stuff for Newt. We tell him about Talia. He's super sad about all that situation. He lost his sons, and now he lost Talia. And then William like swears vengeance. And Lucas is like, all right, man, maybe chill for a little bit. He's super strong. This is where we learn about the magic and the amulet and everything. He then shows us some of this like fantastic treasure that Bear is after, explains it, and we learn that it's an Ishipian talisman of like, or not talisman, but like artifact of like great value in Ishipi. The Ishipians are like a church. They're like a religious organization that was like mentioned once in like the Magician book. Anyway, everyone's super shocked that they would be involved in such things. But that's what he wants. And it's lost in its sunken ship. And so that's what the whole opening cinematic thing was. He then hands us some papers, which will give us more information, and so that we're able to go and like set up a trap for Bear and whatnot. And this leads us into chapter 3. Here in chapter 3, Arutha sends the Ishipian, or sends for the Ishipians so that we can talk about their like lost treasure and stuff. And they reveal that it was one of the artifacts, that it's like a super ancient, powerful artifact. And as it's not in their treasure, something. Okay. Anyway, so then Arutha then sends us to the Wreckers Guild, which is still in Krondor. And the Wreckers Guild is a group of people that like help get ships out of the water. And so we're supposed to go over there. And then we send Jazria and James, and then he sends William with a group of soldiers to find the Baron to stop them. So we take over still in Krondor, we head over to the Wreckers Guild, we learn that the Guildmaster was killed like the previous night or night before, and we get told to see Jorath for more information, and also about old Tom, who's a drunk sailor who like hides out in the corner over here in like the alleyways. So we head inside, we meet with Jorath. He mentions Kendrick arguing with the Guildmaster. They talk about like this chick Abigail, and then we go talk to her. She talks about the arguing, and we talk about the Guildmaster dying. And after he died, Kendrick went into hiding, and then unfortunately the Wreckers Guild is going to have to be like disbanded or whatever, because only Kendrick and the old Guildmaster, who's now dead, knew the ritual or had the magical power to like use the ritual to raise the ship. And the Jorath mentions that he's happy that the guild is shutting down because other guilds have developed like more efficient techniques, and that they're like not getting a lot of work and stuff. And then we find out that Kendrick was engaged to some shopkeepers, so we can try to go track her down. Jezreel gets like super offended because Jorath is pretty racismus. He's got a lot of racismus towards the Keshians. Upstairs, we check all the rooms. We also talk to Abigail, as I mentioned. She mentioned that the Guildmaster's heart was really bad and that he was having issues anyway, and that she did hear the argument that he had with Kendrick. She mentions that it's odd that Kendrick would kill the Guildmaster because Kendrick was like an orphan, and the Guildmaster brought him in, and they were like father and son, and even though they like argued, it's not like they had any ill will towards each other. In fact, the Guildmaster he was about to retire because of his bad heart, and he was going to make Kendrick the new Guildmaster. So we break into Jorath's room. And we don't find anything inside. Oh, But we decide, like, hey, maybe we'll come back after dark and there'll be some shit here. All right. So then inside Kendrick's room, we find a shell, and the shell we need is like a super rare shell, and it's used specifically for like rising ships using like very powerful magic. And then it comes from Stardock, which is the mage academy that Pug set up. Kendrick has some notes about paying people back on his desk. And then there's like this ridiculous puzzle where we have to like build a ship and we're like timed and stuff. It's like insane. Anyway, so then that gives us the spell which is needed to actually raise the ship. And we find that Kendrick was a lesser path magician. So in case you're not listening to my other videos about the books, lesser path is people who have magical powers but aren't really like trained academically, so they're kind of like sorcerers in the Dungeons and Dragons, if that helps. And then the higher path or the upper path is more like wizards from Dungeons and Dragons. Like they're more studious and they're more powerful and have more like the lower path can be more powerful, but they're less like guided and they have less. It's kind of like more like wild magic, like in like a sorcerer. So we need to find him because he has a lot of magical power and everything else. So we head over to the wealthy sector, and now that it's daytime, it's at nighttime for the last 2 chapters, like shit's open. So we go talk to a homie of James in one shop, and then he tells us that Kendrick is like a sweet boy. Next door, we find the gem shop that all these like gems of his were stolen, and that they broke in through the sewer. So back to the sewer we go. Because the guards are not going to be good down in the sewer because Jimmy the Hand and whatnot. And we get more of his like backstory because these guys apparently also knew each other or whatever. And Jimmy the Hand was like the best thief, and he knew the tunnels the best, and all this stuff. And then at some point he saved Arutha's life, which we know about from the book, from Magician, because he did, and that allowed him to become a squire later on under Arutha when he took over as like Prince of Krondor, which he's currently Prince of Krondor now. Anyway, which again happens in the first book. So once we're down there, we find a map, and it tells us exactly where to go, which is super nice because it was kind of annoying before. Following the map, we find these 2 jabronis, and we follow them until they lead us into like a secret passage where we have a fight, of course. We kill them, we get the chest, there's a super nice haul. There's also a letter from Jared, who's the gem guy, who about betraying us to Bear. So fuck that guy. So we head back to him, we kick his ass after a little battle, and then we head over to Moraine, and Moraine sells like magic stuff here in like the high class society town shopping area. And then we also find a secret passage, but Jazara's like, let's come back at night. And we're like, all right, cool, sounds good. So then we like go take a little napopotamus until it's nighttime so we can do like the rest of this chapter. So first we go visit Drunk Tom. He's being attacked by some Nighthawks, so we kill the shit out of them. And then he tells us that the Nighthawks are the ones who actually killed the guild master. So then we head into the guild. We find some paperwork in Jorah's room, which we now break into, about that he sent to the Nighthawks, which is like ordering their death. Also in Kendrick's room are Nighthawks, so we kill them and see what they're looking for, and we kind of guess that they're looking for the shell. Head back to old Tom, talk to him for a minute, then we head over, and then he mentions the old Ye Old Bitten Dog, which is the tavern the pirates are in. So we mosey on back over there, and as we saw Nighthawks earlier when we were trying to talk to the pirate guy. So this time we talk to Pete. He's like in charge of the inn over here, and we pretend that we're here to like hire Nighthawks or whatever, and that we're paying for good jobs or whatever. And so he directs us to the back where we find and fight and kill Nighthawks. Then we head downstairs, we kill some more, and then we find a fucking demon. Like, I just walk into this room and there's like some black wizard or something, like a evil wizard, and he's just like, demon time, and I was like, the fuck? So we kill that. We kill the sorcerer that summoned it. We find more evidence that Kendrick's innocent, and so then we head out. The city guard have already shown up because I guess all the racket that we're making about when we're killing demons and stuff, and we're like, cool, we're here to take credit for your work, and we're like, hooray. Anyway, so now we head back over to Marines. And we open up her secret passage and find her and Kendrick in the back, and we find out that they're engaged to be married. And then we hand over all the issue. He's like, oh no. And we're like, no, here's evidence that you're innocent. We can prove it. And then also we kill the Nighthawks, so you're safe. And he's like, yay. And so we chat with them for a bit before the chapter ends, which takes us into chapter 4. So every chapter begins with like Pug telling like a little bit of the story or kind of catching us up on some stuff we missed. So then Pug recalls how William's traveled for 2 days and that he was looking for vengeance. And again, William is Pug's son, right? And so William and his crew, they find some mercs. They jump them and kill the shit out of them. And then we take them all prisoner. Let's see. And we find out that Bear left them to kill anyone who showed up to follow him, and that he was supposed to meet up with Bear at Two Fangs Point or Two Fangs Pass, and that Bear is setting up a trap there for following him. William then sends the leader of the crew back and proceeds with 2 of his men, which he just in chapter 5. So Kendrick is found innocent by Arutha and everything, and Jorah is imprisoned or whatever. It doesn't really say, but I'm assuming. So then James so Kendrick then gets told that he's going to go with James and Jazara to bring the ship up because he can do it, right? So solve that problem. We also get the Ashipian church also lends us one of their warrior priests who's like a paladin. Solus, I think is his name. Not Solus. It's like Solin something. I wrote soon because fucking autocorrect on my notes. It'll come up later, but it's like Solin or Sol. I think it's Solin. To get the artifact. And so anyway, we'll just call him Priest Guy. So then Priest Guy, we find out is like an ex-soldier, and he was like super strong and dedicated. Then he like joined the Ashipian faith, and now he's like a soldier for them. It's like, like war 9 for changes. It's our mentality. So then we learned that we have to meet up with Alan, who's like out in the wilderness to learn more. And that William it's been a week since William left, so we're kind of getting some idea of like time as time goes by. So we've spent like a bit of time. So even though you could rest and spend like days and days in Krondor if you really wanted to, like grinding levels and whatnot, it's only been a week according to like the story, if you will. So then we get to raid the armory of Krondor before we head out, which gives us a few nice things. I've just been like holding on to like all the magical pieces of armor, so the armory only has like a couple things that I need. Like at this juncture, Jazara cannot equip armor. She does not have a weapon because otherwise she can't cast spells. Kendrick also equips nothing. He just casts spells, right? And so and then I gave like a bunch of chainmail stuff to William, and we can't affect him anymore because he's just like off doing his own little thing. So and then I had Jimmy or James. He is like fully equipped with like the best armor in the game that I could find, that I ever found for him, that I just like found randomly dropped from like chests and dudes as I was like grinding out levels in chapter 1. So there was like 1 or 2 things I took from the armory for Solon, but other than that, it was just kind of like, cool, thanks, I guess. And so after we kind of raid the armory, we get to head out into like the woods and the wilderness, and this part kind of sucks, not gonna lie. Like this game is not super fun to play, to be completely honest. Like I am not super enjoying it. It's like okay, but then we are on a world map, and we have like we can go to that destination, and every time we move, and then it's like there's like a whole bunch of like dots that we can like move to, but we can only move to them going through other areas. And every time we like move through an area, we got to get into like another battle, and the battles in these games are like awful and long, and they don't really give you anything, right? Like you can search the corpses, but they like I already like as I mentioned, I'm already kind of like maxed out on stuff, and then like both wizards can like barely function, right? Like I can either cast spells and let them sit around and wait, or I can like fail at casting spells. On occasion Jazara will like actually cast a spell. But then the battlefields here, unlike in town where I'm like in a small room, they're like these huge open fields. And so like I kind of wander around, and there's like some side quest things you can do. But after trying to do a couple of them, and they're just like, oh, go east of here. And I go east of there, and there's like nothing. Or this guy is like, oh, my kids got kidnapped by goblins. You should go save them. I'm like, cool, sounds good. So then I wander around. I find like this huge goblin pack. I'm like, all right, I must be going the right way. And then like nothing. And then I like move. I spent like another like half an hour just like wandering the map trying to find these like goblin children, or the children have been kidnapped by the goblins. And finally I'm just like, well, I guess those children are fucking dead because I'm done. And that was kind of annoying. Eventually we get to like the middle of the map, which is the Wayfinder Inn, where we're supposed to meet up with like this guy. And Kendrick is like, oh, it's nap time. And James is like, I don't know, man. I feel like we should be more cautious. Let's sleep outside. And so I'm like, okay, let's sleep outside. And then while I said it's a good thing we did, because the inn gets burned down and we have to kill some more goblins, right? Afterwards, we talk to the innkeeper and his wife, and then next up is some fucking flying demon that just like attacks me in the middle of like wandering in the woods. And I was like, oh god, another demon. But both demons have been kind of bitches. And then as we get closer to like our goal, which is the area where we're gonna like raise the ship, we run into some more Keshian assassins. Jazara mentions that there is so then we get to there with the ship, and let's see. Oh, and she's like, hey, there's some strong magic around here that's kind of odd. And then we get attacked by more demons. I think it's like these winged gargoyle-looking things, and I think the game classifies them as air elementals for some reason. But I was like, okay, whatever. I'm fighting more gargoyle demons, like whatever. Anyway, they also go down like bitches. And then Solon is like, hey, that's the ship. We need to raise that ship. And Kendrick's like, all right, let's do it. And he tries, but nothing happens. And Jazara mentions, again, that there's some like strange magical energy here, and that it seems like there is a magic user of some sort fighting against us so that we cannot raise the ship. So we got to go figure that out first, I guess. We got to go track down this mage and kill him. And then Salon makes a pronouncement about the church and the importance of the artifact and everything. And then we all head out, which leads us into chapter 6, which is back to William just doing like another combat round or whatever. So he arrives at the Two-Fanged Pass and he's ready to ambush Bear. And then we get like a commencement of a battle. We cannot hurt Bear at all. So we kill all his minions. And then as we keep hitting him and doing no damage, and finally William declares that Bear is using magic, and so we got to get out of there. So he runs with his minions, and his minions get killed, and then he jumps into the river. And then that leads to chapter 7, which heads back over with with James and his crew. So Kendrick continues to try to get the boat up. Jazria mentions that there's a town near here called like Haldron Head or something, and that it's known for like witchcraft or something. And so as we enter the town, a guy is complaining about a woman, the witch, obviously, and then they both kind of welcome, and he's complaining to like the mayor who runs like the local inn. And so then the guy like wanders off, and the mayor welcomes us to the town, and we're like, hey, what's going on with that guy? What's he talking about? And then the mayor's like, oh, don't worry about him, it's just wolves or some shit. Which is super shady. Like, everything about this mayor is like super shady. He's on the level. We find out, but I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, so we stay at the inn that night after we chat with him about just like the shit that's going on in this town, and he has a lot to say, and I didn't care for most of it, so he just kind of blathers on about whatever. Like there's something with the cows and a curse of a witch, and there's like a preacher, and he also thinks the witch is the problem, but there's some other stuff going on, and it's probably just wolves. Anyway, we hear this like scream in the middle of the night, so we get up and we run outside, and it's a fucking vampire, and it's like, oh, vampires, got it. And this guy kicks my ass, but I don't die, thank God. And we're able to finally beat him. We investigate the vampire, and we get like vampire ash or whatever, and then the body of the person he was attacking is like, you know, punctured wound in the neck and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, now we open up like a map of the village, kind of like in Krondor or like the open world, and it's like, all right, let's go figure this out. So we head to the crypt first, and we kill some vampires there. We then wander around the town just like killing fucking vampires all over the place, and eventually we rescue a guy who tells us about the vampire issue. And he says a lot. And the big takeaways are that the vampire thing keeps spreading, and that we keep beating them back at night, but then they just like regenerate and come back the next night or whatever, and that we need to find the source, and we need to destroy the source. He also mentions the witch and how the witch may or may not be related. He doesn't really think so, it seems. Anyway, we kill some more vampires, including the woods cutter inside his hut, which has this like, it glows red, and inside there we find this like fun skeleton looking thing with a red stone in its crotch. And so we take the stone, obviously, because the stone's like the day stone or like whatever. It's the stone that allows the vampires to like regenerate. It's the source. So then we had to take it somewhere and like destroy it or whatever. And then we find some journal. It's like half burned up in the fireplace, stating that the woodcutter is not what he presents himself as. And so now it's time to go investigate the witch. So we head over to the witch's hut, and we go in there and we taste her stew, and it's fucking delicious. And then she teleports in, and she's like, oh, you're here to burn me? Fine, let's fucking do this. And then she sasses us like the sassy old woman that she is. And they're like, no, we're not that. We're here to take care of this vampire shit. We're just wondering if you can help. And then we talk to her about the vampires, and then she just keeps complaining about how the villagers keep wanting to burn her. So after dealing with that old crone for a bit, we can like rest up, and then it's morning time. So then it's time to talk to all the people that are out and about. And a lot of them just want to talk about the witchcraft, and we're just like, whatever, fuck the witch. So we ignore her, and we head out to kill the vampires. So we go to the crypt, and then we have to use that like red stone. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's night stand or night something. Anyway, it's the thing we got at the like the old woodcutter's lodge or whatever. So we use that, and the whole world turns red, and then the door breaks open because it like turns the day to night, so that the vampires will like wake up, so we can kill them, and then it's sunlight, so then we can like drag their bodies out so they burn up for good. Let's see. Oh yeah, so we kill the shit out of them, right? Yeah, that's right. We kill the shit out of them, and that we end like the vampire threat. Then we go tell the mayor and everything, and then we hear about this family called the Merricks who have like a sick daughter. So we go check it out, and they're like, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, people say it's the witch, but we don't really believe it's the witch or whatever. And then we find this like charm, and the charm has like it's from like some evil church, and Solon's like, oh, blah blah blah, and then it's like, where'd you get this charm? And it's like the priest of the village, and it's like interesting because this is like a evil symbol. And it was supposedly like the priest gave it to him to protect against the witch, but it's actually the thing that is causing the problems or whatever. And then so we go talk to the farmer we talked to the night before and some other people. They complain about the witch, but they also talk about how there's some other shady stuff going on and stuff with the priest and whatnot. we then kind of do some more investigating about the priest and stuff. We find out that him and the guy who was originally complaining, the farmer, at the beginning when we first got to Haldron Head or whatever, that they both bought out like all the rat poison, and it seems like they've been using that to like poison the animals or whatnot. So we go call like the farmer out on it, because he's just like, oh, the witch curses, she cursed us. And you're like, what about all this rat poison and shit that you have here in like your food that you're giving your animals? And he's like, oh no, and then he like kills himself or dies or something. And I'm like, okie dokie. He also mentions the priest as being someone involved with this whole thing, and how the priest convinced him to do all this stuff before, he croaks. So we go to confront the priest, and he calls us sinners, and then uses some sort of like mind magic to control the villagers who try to attack us. So we kill the priest, and then we just kind of like defend so we don't kill like innocent villagers or anything like that. And then once he's down and like a turn or two goes by, as soon as it goes down, they don't automatically like stop fighting. It took like another turn or so before like the fighting ceased. And then once they do that, they all kind of like apologize for fighting us and stuff. And so we talk to them, and then we head over to the witch, and we're like, hey, you're cleared. Everyone found out it was this evil priest with like his evil temple that's nearby or whatever. But we have some more questions. And so we talk with her about the evil temple and how it's hidden, and she kind of explains where it's at. And she mentions that that's probably the thing that's stopping the ship from rising, because it's such an evil magic around here, and there's probably some like evil wizards in there and whatnot. And then she ends us this like crazy red writing thing. We then get a vision from the witch, like she forces us to see something, and it's some crazy undead thing and like a necromancer maybe, and they're talking about an amulet and Kendrick being sacrificed, and how the person who has the amulet, which is clearly Bear, is like, not doing what he does, and it needs to be passed on to someone else or whatnot. And at that point the chapter ends. So then we go to William, and this is like the beginning of his chapter. He's having some like real trippy visions while he's like barely alive in the water or whatever, and he just keeps killing demons like super easily, while Talia is like talking. She's like chained up, and she's talking about like her soul or whatever, and Talia's his girlfriend from the beginning who got killed. So apparently she's caught up in like something because of Bear or whatever, and so she is like refusing. So he rescues her, and then she refuses by killing all the demons and like saving her in this evil place, but then she refuses to move on because she wants to help William defeat Bear somehow. So she's gonna like stick around as like a spirit or something. Anyway, so then he like wakes up on the side of the river, and there's that crazy necromancer looking dude who from the vision, who's like, oh, hello, my name's City. We should help each other out because we both want to kill Bear. And he tells some like crazy wackadoo story about how Bear like destroyed his village and whatnot, and how he wants to, he wants to buddy up with William, and they can go hunt Bear down and finally take care of that motherfucker, and they can both get like their vengeance. And he mentions that he's a wizard and that he wants the amulet that Bear has. So then, so William's like, dope, let's do it. I'm down. And that takes us to chapter 9, which I think is the last chapter. There might be one more. Anyway, so we're back with James. And so first thing we do is we go back and talk to the witch, and we find out that amulet we've been holding on the whole fucking game. Yeah, you probably forgot about it, because I kind of did. I went to town to like ask her some more shit about like this temple, because you start off on like this coastline, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Partially because I don't play these games like all in one sitting. So I went back to the witch and be like, hey, what am I doing? And it's like, oh, the temple. And then it's like, oh, hey, the amulet you have? Oh, that must be my husband. Aw, he's being such an asshole. He needs to get back over and marry me. I don't care if he's all jacked up from burns or whatnot. And I was like, that's adorbs. And she gets like real sassy again because she's a fucking crazy old bat. Anyway, to the Dark Temple we go. So back to like the ominous coastline or whatever. We head down there. We find the marking like the one she showed us in the last chapter with all the red writing and stuff, and then so we just press on it, and then we go to the temple, and there's this huge chamber with these like red armored, adorned like skeleton monster thingies, and then we get the super fun puzzle. And when I say it's fun, I say it's stupid, because you have to like reflect laser light moving like stones on this board to open like this door, but you have like microseconds to do it, and so you like pick up a stone, and it's like, where should I put this? And it's like, you have failed, and I'm like, I didn't even do anything. And then every time you fail, like 2 of the skeletons come out, and you just beat the shit out of them. And there's only like 6 or 8 of them. There's only a few battles, and then they just stop coming. And then when you fail, it just kind of kicks you out of the puzzle, and you can go back in. And so it was like, it's like an interesting puzzle that was somewhat well designed, but the timing thing on it is like, why is there a timing thing? It should just be like, if you fail, like I should have plenty of time to just like sit and think about it, because sometimes you got to move like 2 stones to like double bounce it, and it was like, whatever. Anyway, It's kind of stupid because you get no time. So we head to the next room. There's some fucking tentacles because why not? And then we wander around, kill that, wander around. We kill some goblins. We kill some ghouls. And then we get to like this big crazy map area that's kind of like we can click on a bunch of like wherever we want, right? So it's kind of like the Krondor map or the Halden Head or the Wilderness map sort of where we can just like, point to like I want to go to this area and nothing's named, but I got through it like super fucking fast. Like I just like clicked one and then I clicked on another and it was like you're at the exit of this place and I was like cool, sounds good, let's get the fuck out of here. And through there we find another large room with some more skeleton warriors. We kill all them and then we find that undead lady from the vision. Oh, the Lich maybe. And so we kill her ass. She just mentioned like centuries ago doing something, and I was like, cool, don't give a fuck. And when she goes down, that clears chapter 9, leading us to chapter 10. And so we get this super cool cinematic of Kendrick lifting up the ship out of the ocean. And then we gotta walk over this ice floe to get to it, and it is a long fucking walk. Like, I'm like, why is this so long? There's like one battle in the middle, but there's like four like scenes, like 4 different camera shots where you have to like you're running and then you fight and then you run and then you run again, and finally you get over to the fucking ship and then we get attacked by shadows when we get over there, and so that's fun. So we kill that, and then once inside we see like all these dead guys, all these dead priests and like the pirates and whatnot, and we get attacked by a giant fucking crab. Like, what? Once we kill the crab, we find like the best warhammer in the game, I guess. It's the best one I ever found, so we give that to Solon. And then we head up, we kill some zombies, and then we move forward, and then we get to like right before we're about to get to like the statue of Iship or whatever, and then Solon's like, hey, when we get in there, I'm gonna have to like, there's like a magic dragon or something that guards it, and so I'm gonna have to like dispel it, but that's gonna take some time, so you guys are gonna have to just like defend me while I do that. And I was like, and he's like, and we're like, okay, is that gonna be tough? And he's like, it may kill us immediately, and we're like, okay, so tough. Anyway, it's not tough at all. We just go in there, and I just like take pot shots at this thing for like 3 turns maybe, and it casts like lightning on us. So I spend most of that time just having like Jazara and like people using potions, or like Jazara and Kendrick using like their one healing spell they both have, which is like I don't know, it's a weird spell. But anyway, and so none of my guys die, and I'm able to defeat it. And then I had to come back and do it again because the game bugged out later when I was trying to fight Bear, which is fine, because the second time it was like even easier. So we destroy that. We grab the tear, which is the artifact for the Ishep, and then we head back to shore. And then right when we get to shore, Bear interrupts us and sends his minion to fight us. And then at some point, and Bear's just standing up there. Well, the first time Bear jumped down, and then it didn't like trigger the ending battle, right? Because he's supposed to stay up on this like plateau or whatever. And so then I just like fought, and I was like, God damn, okay. So then I did my save, went back through the whole thing, and this time he stayed the fuck up there like he should have. Fucking buggy game. And so we fought, we killed all his minions, and then he was like taunting us, and then William like jumps down, and then Talia's spirit like joins with him, and she mentioned some god, and City casts some spell on William, and then William can actually hurt Bear now, and he beats the shit out of him, just kills the shit out of him. And then Talia's spirit's finally like, oh, William, you've avenged me, I'm so happy I can finally move on to the great past world or whatever. And William's like, I love you, I always love you. And she's like, goodbye, my love. And then we team back up with William, and we all head back to Krondor. The head priest of Ishap congratulates us. Not king, he's a prince. Prince Arutha throws a feast, and everyone gets congratulated, and that's the end of Return to Krondor, which was an okay game. I wasn't a super big fan. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. There was a couple buggy parts, and that whole thing with the wilderness area was kind of the worst, because it was just like I was wandering around trying to do quests, and it was like very confusing and very hard to like get anywhere or do anything, and it just didn't seem to work very well. But outside of that, I enjoyed it. The story's it's okay. It is not as good as like Betrayal of Krondor, which is an older game, but that takes place after this, and definitely not as good as like Robert Feist's like actual books, which are excellent, which I've talked about. I'm recording this before I read the books. I'm trying to remember. Well, I've read the first book. I think the second book. Well, the first book is like 2 books in one. It's like, and then the second book. I think the second book I think you'll get the second book before this, and then it's these 2, and then it's the third book. I think that's how it works. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, thanks for being here. Next up on the game. Next up is Betrayal of Krondor for sure, and then it's the final book. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. All right, cool. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.